What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Comically Boston breakdown episode. I'm your host, Big Cam, and today we are talking about Skeleton Crew episode 1 and 2. They had their 2-episode premiere last night, and the show will now be dropping on Monday evening, so breakdowns coming to the channel Tuesdays through the month of December, and I believe just a little bit into January. This show will take us right into 2025, which is fun. But this show is really going to be something. I didn't know what to expect, and through 2 episodes, I am very excited. There's 8 episodes total, so there's 6 episodes remaining. 6 weeks, I believe. These are all going to drop 1 week at a time now after this. But the Rotten Tomatoes score so far is pretty good. 94% critic score and 87% on the audience score, so that's pretty damn good, with 45 critic reviews and over 100 audience reviews. Pretty good scores for Star Wars, considering their last TV show. I mean, I don't even want to check what the Acolytes scores are, but I'd almost guarantee that this show's doing better than that off the get-go, you know what I mean? But the first episode here is titled, This Could Be a Real Adventure, and we start to meet our gang of our crew here, our skeleton crew, and by the end of the second episode, we have what I believe is going to be our team going forward here. And I really love the 4 kids, and Jude Law is going to be questionable for me. I'm not sure what his character's deal is at the current moment, but let's just jump right on into it, shall we, folks? This show kicks right off with some words, just like most Star Wars projects start, and it starts by saying, since the fall of the Empire, the New Republic has maintained order, and yet remote hyperspace routes are increasingly plagued by piracy. These pirates boldly brand their armored hulls, I believe it's said, as a sign to all ships, surrender or die. And then we open on a shot of a Tantum 4 looking ship, kind of like a New Hope, and it's getting boarded by pirates. And we see the leader of the pirates, or at least he's going to be in a moment. Right now he's the second-hand man. So the second-hand man of the pirates, a wolf man named Brutus, is a dual-wielding shooter, and he coming out, and immediately I was like, oh my god, this show is so much Star Wars already. It looks great. They got the way that their ships look so good. And then most of the alien, right, like almost all I would expect of the alien Star Wars costumes, like the Wolfman, like Neil, you know, like the Mac Rebo elephant looking family. All of those, I believe, are done practically, and if they are done CGI, they look phenomenal. But practical, they just look so good and timeless. This show has such an 80s feel to it, like a Spielberg, Goonies meets Stranger Things. Like, this show's got some crazy vibes to it already that I'm like, I gotta just dive in full bore here. But we see that the Wolfman was just clearing a path for Captain Silvo, and just from the way that this guy's voice sounded and the jacket that he's wearing, he is wearing a helmet in this shot, but just the way that his voice sounded, they tried to like distort his voice a little bit underneath the helmet, but it still sounds and looks like Jude Law to me. So my early guesses are that this guy is Jude Law, and I guess you're supposed to think that, but they don't necessarily come out and say it. So at my current moment, this is Jude Law's character, and we don't necessarily meet him until the end of second episode. But Captain Silvo here promised the pirates a whole bunch of credits, and they open up the vault and it's only got 1 measly credit. And then he tries to fight back, but it's like 1 on 50, so they say they're going to throw him in the brink, and then the title card, Skeleton Crew, pops up, and we cut over to our boy Wim, and he is one of our main characters, a young little guy, and he is Neil's best friend, but we cut over him playing with his toys, and his dad's yelling at him to get ready for school from downstairs. He runs down, has blue milk in his cereal, and dad's giving him a hard time. Hey, you better pass your test, don't be late for school. And it seems like Wim here is a only child with a single father, and I believe the father is a widower because I believe they lost their mother, and I believe that's only said in like one quick line, but I was like, damn son, I feel this kid so much already. He's just alone, and his dad's always working, so he's pretty much raising himself. He doesn't have any siblings. He really only has one friend. He's kind of the weird kid in school, so he hangs out with Neil. Neil's awesome. Neil must be protected at all costs. We'll get to him in 1 second. But Wim, I feel really bad for, but he goes to run to school, and we see that Wim and his blue friend Neil have a fake little lightsaber battle, and Wim really wants to be a Jedi, it seems. And he's daydreaming only about Jedis and being cool and going on an adventure, and you know, Wim is our hopeful, you know, gotta go on an adventure, Luke Skywalker hero type, right? Not necessarily the biggest genius, but he's gonna risk it all to save the people. And Neil is kind of like your Chewbacca, right? You're creature of the group, but everybody loves you. And then we meet later KB, and she's like the girl with the metal like tech, I think she's got tech implants, but it's like a visor that pops down over her eyes, and she's like the tech expert. So she's kind of like your C-3PO, you know what I mean? Or whoever else is really good at tech, maybe like a Rey. And then her friend Fern is a female racer. She's kind of like your pilot, maybe leader of the group, kind of like your Han Solo, right? So, but kids, right? So I kind of dig how this group reminds you of other Star Wars groups we've seen in the past. So the kids get to school, and a lady walks in, and she's like a bigwig, and she's telling them all about their big test they have tomorrow. So kind of like MCAST for us when we were kids. I don't know if you guys remember that. But this lady, right, and we end up finding out that they're on a planet that they call At-Aten, and this bigwig lady is telling them that each of you have your own place in the great work, and whatever the great work is, I don't know what the deal is with this planet, because once they leave this planet and we find out like what the deal is, and nobody knows where this planet is, and these poor kids are just trying to get home. What is this planet? Is this like an outer rim, so far outer rim planet that this is like early days of like the First Order or something? That's the rumors I saw going around social media a little bit. But as they're in the classroom, and the teacher, the bigwig lady's asking, you know, the kids what they want to be when they grow up, Neil's crush has something to say, and we need to let Neil fall in love by the end of this season. Oh my god, I need it so bad.
I want to be a senior statistical accountant.
Ah, yes. And
I want to be a senior statistical accountant, right? Like, and she's front row, being a big nerd. Her name is Runa, and Neil just, she's so beautiful. Like, I love everything about Neil already. I really do. But yes, Neil needs to be protected at all costs, and he needs to be reunited with his love, Runa, and I will not stop until I see it myself. Here's a quick picture of the girl Fern ripping on a scooter, and then the side hack is her best friend slash tech hand partner, KB, and KB's pretty awesome as well, but you can see how she's got the cybernetic things, and it's like visor that pops down, but that is not how she looks all the time, because she can pop it up, we see later this episode or in the early second episode. But both of them are really cool. So you got the two girls, the boys, and they kind of have to unite to help each other type of thing. But at the current moment, they're kind of at odds end. But after school, we see Neil go home to his cutest little Max Rebo family. He's got a mom and dad and two other little siblings. And poor Wim goes home all alone. And yeah, poor kid. But they have to study for the big test tomorrow. But we find out that the two girls we've been seeing are Fern and KB, the tech girl that I was just telling us about. And we find out that Fern's mother is the big wig lady. And we also see that the bike that Fern and KB were riding is having some, parts problems, and they need to get a new power converter. But a punk jerk of a kid pulls up on a little three-seater and goes, "Oh, you're gonna be racing? You better. See you there," and rips off like, you know, bad kids do. Little punks. So then we cut over to Wim and his father talking, and his dad's like, bedtime stories. Aren't you a little too old to be telling bedtime stories? And Wim's like, will you tell me a bedtime story like Mom used to? So that's where I'm kind of getting the hint that maybe Mom passed. Dad's too busy working. Dad wants his kid to grow up and be able to take care of himself. So his dad's, you know, a little bit of an asshole, but also he's a widower. So, you know, maybe he's grieving in his own way and he lost his wife, so he's very upset himself. But hey, you don't take it out on your kid. He's the only thing you got left, you know. Read the poor kid a fucking bedtime story. But so Wim goes to sleep and he has to be on time for school the next day to take the big test. And Wim oversleeps, he's late for the bus, and he goes, I'm gonna take a shortcut. And he gets on the speeder and he starts ripping. And then we cut back to the kids, and the kids are already at school, and he's like just getting on the bike. And it's like, we just saw the bus pull away and he's getting on the bike. I thought we were gonna get more of a he's chasing down the bus type of thing, and he arrives at the same time as the bus to take the test. Instead, it seems like the bus just arrives and he's running so late, and he's ripping through the woods on his little dad's speeder bike, and you know, branches are knocking off his helmet, and he's ripping, and then all of a sudden he comes up to a cliff and falls down the cliff, and it's too steep for him to get out, but he stumbles across what looks like a armor or some piece of metal, and he thinks it's a Jedi temple he has found underneath the dirt, and mostly because he's obsessed with Jedi. But as soon as he like sees this metal, and we hear a robot behind him scare the shit out of him and go, you are in violation of attendance, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. And they're like, get out of there. And he's like, okay, how? You know, like, the kid's pretty funny. But so poor Wim is late for school, and he's now, you know, at the principal's office, but the principals are kind of droids. So his dad's pissed, has to show up. He got pulled out of a meeting to come talk to him, and he's like, Dad, I found a buried Jedi temple. But sitting there also in trouble is Fern, and Fern's sitting there and goes, the droids hate me because I race. But Fern overhears him tell his dad about the buried Jedi temple he found, and then she questions him, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, I lied about that, right? So then she obviously goes with KB to find it, Neil goes with Wim to go find it, but Wim has to go get Neil. But the dad was so pissed that Wim was late to class and missed this, he had to get pulled out of work, and he goes, I will be dropping you off tomorrow myself, and you will be passing every single, like, he has to get every single question right to pass now. And he goes, and I expect you to pass. Are we clear? And then he's like, you will be going home. I will be going back to work. So the dad gets home late from work now. He gets home and the kids aren't there. But where did the kids go? Wim goes home and he goes over to Neil's house to look for Neil. And Neil's like, where the hell did, what happened to Wim today? He was late for school and he didn't show up. And Wim knocks on the window and goes, hey, where's Neil? And Neil's little baby little Neil brother just points that he's upstairs. One of the best moments of the entire show. This little baby Neil I loved so much. But we get this great scene of Wim scaling the building or house.
Oh my goodness! Wim, you missed the whole test. What happened?
Does your dad still got all those tools? Okay, what do we got?
That's a good friend, right? Middle of the bath, he's like, Wim, what the fuck? Right? Scares the shit out of him, and then he just immediately, your dad still got those little tools, and just opens up the garage and goes, alright, what do we got? Right? Like, he's just a good guy. I think Wim is voiced by the same kid that is the lead kid in the new Dear Santa movie on Paramount with Jack Black, where he's got dyslexia, and he accidentally writes Dear Satan instead of Dear Santa. I believe that same kid, I want to say his name was Timothy something. I want to say Neil is him, because I saw them doing interviews, and he was the only kid that I don't see in the show. When they were doing press, he wasn't blue, so I'm guessing this is him. But I'm curious to know if he was just like in, you know, the costume, actually walking around with the head on and everything, or was the head off and it was just him and they're bouncing off a real kid, and then they added the head later, or maybe they just did like one shot with the head, but then most of the time he's walking around being able to see, or if he's got the head on, can he see? You know, I don't know. But it looks really good. You can't say it doesn't. But so Wim and Neil get on their little speeder bikes and start heading off, and Wim is Jedi 1, and Neil goes, what's my call sign going to be? Oh, I know, Jedi 2 calling in, you know, like, he just likes his buddy here, and I wonder if these two are like the weird kids in school, but they have each other, so I'm really here for it, and Wim and Neil are really cool. But they go to find the Jedi Temple, and they fall down like bunch of morons, but Fern and KB called it Claimsies, and he's like, they call it Claimsies, dude, there's nothing we could do, and he's like, are you serious, you're on their team? So the boys and girls make a little deal, and the girls are sitting there as the dumb boys are digging out this thing for them as they claimed it. But as they're digging, KB sees that a little panel, and she goes over and takes off the panel and connects her little cybernetics to the panel and opens up the door. And this isn't a Jedi temple, but a door to a ship that we're going to find out. And this is their skeleton crew ship that I'm guessing we're going to spend most of the rest of the series on. But then right as soon as they open the door and walk in, we hear Wim's dad going, Wim! Wim! And the girl's like, oh, you're going to be in so much trouble. So they hide on the inside of the ship. And then they start walking through, and the door's shut behind them. So now they're stuck in the ship. Fern's like, we need to turn on the power so before we run out of oxygen, which is probably a fair point. But then, you know, as we hear them walking, Wim and Neil take off, and all of a sudden you hear Neil go, ah, a skeleton! And as they walk up, it's just a droid, but, you know, skeleton crew. So this is where the skeletons, I guess, come into the crew. But it's a droid, and something pops out of its eye. So it's like a little rat living in this droid's eye. And as they like click the door, or as they like see the droid, the door's shut and everything locks up on the ship. Even Neil goes with the girls because he's like, I just want to go home, Wim. And Wim goes off alone, but Neil and the girls go walking through the ship. And Wim scares himself in a little jump scare in a mirror. KB gets the ship running, but Wim sees a green button. He's on the radio, and they're like, don't touch anything. He's like, okay. But it's a green glowing button blinking. I must click it. And he clicks it, and the ship starts making noises and starts to fly. And he's like, I didn't punch anything. But he clearly did. But as the ship turns on, the robot's one good eye, right? Because the other eye's not good and a rat popped out of it. So the one good robot eye turns on as the ship turns on. Uh-oh. But Wim's dad, Wendell, sees the massive ship, and it was upside down, so it flips over as the kids almost fall out the hole, and now the doors close, and the kids are on the inside of the ship, and the ship takes off, and his dad sees it all happen, and he's like, it was Wim, the 3 kids, so at least somebody on the planet knows the kids are missing type of thing, and they didn't just get, like, stolen. But we see the kids just taking off into space, and they're like, we're gonna go through the barrier! We've never gone through the barrier! And then they never seen stars before, and then they all scream as they jump into hyperspace and disappear, and then the credits roll. And I was like, damn, that's a good first episode. But I had to jump into the second episode almost immediately because I had to find out what happened to this group of kiddos. I like our team so far. You know, you got your hero, like I was saying, with Wim, and he's got family problems at home. And then you got Fern, the racer pilot with a hard-ass mom. She's kind of like Luke, but also kind of like Rey, but also kind of like Han Solo. KB, your tech expert, and Neil, your alien friend that everybody loves, you know? Like, I love this crew so far. But episode 2 is a short one. It was only about 31 minutes with credits, so I think it's like a 28-minute episode, something like that. But it flies by, so let's jump right into it. Episode 2 is titled Way, Way Out Past the Barrier. So obviously the first episode was titled, well, we could be going on an adventure, and Wim says that to Neil. So in the second episode, Way, Way Out Past the Barrier, we also get a, oh, who said this, and that's the title of the episode. We open on the kids getting kicked out of hyperspace. The ship kind of, you know, flying through hyperspace doesn't have enough juice to stay in hyperspace and kind of wobbles and kicks itself out. Now they're kind of in the direction back where they're going, but they're not wherever this ship was hyperspace heading to. You know what I'm saying? And the kids are like, we need to get home right now. And then we hear a snarl. And you're like, uh-oh, there's a monster on this ship. There's a creature. And then you hear a boom, you know, and the thud of the foot. And then the snarl. And then we hear that it's just the robot snarling. But why is this robot snarling? Because this is a pirate ship and a pirate robot. So his former captain, whoever this robot was was a pirate, you know? So that's just kind of cool that in the robot's name, I believe, is SM-33. Don't know what that stands for, but he is kind of cool. He has one eye and one hole where a rat lives. But the robot is going, we need to take these kids to the brig. Captain, captain. So he's looking for his captain, and then Fern goes, your captain's dead. I killed him myself, so I'm your new captain. So the robot goes, okay, you're my new captain. And Wim's like, I fucking called to be captain. What the fuck? Really, so the poor kid just wants to be a leader, but he's not, and Fern is. So Fern's the new captain, and he's like, SM-33 is like, all right, what do we do with these stowaways, captain? Do we throw them into the brig? And she's like, I guess not. Why don't you show your new captain how to fly? So the droid shows them how to fly. Neil's pissed that they are way, way out past the barrier, and they could be lost forever. Where the title of the episode comes in, and they start to tell the robot, all right, we're from Ad-Adin, and he's like, I don't know that place. So this is the first time we're like, all right, what is this place? Why did no one know where they're from? But these kids are clearly from this place. So the robot suggests, why don't we go to a hyperspace port for directions? So they're gonna go to the hyperspace port. So they go to jump off, and we find that Wim ran away because they were like blaming him. He goes, it's not all my fault that we're here. So Wim runs away, but he finds the captain's quarters, and this finds actual skeletons on this ship. So it wasn't just the robot that was the skeleton that Neil was scared of in the first episode. There's actual pirates that are stabbed, and we see the skeletons on the ship, and Wim's like, it scares Neil, but Wim grabs him and goes, look, isn't this cool? I believe they were fighting. So there is actual skeletons on this skeleton crew ship, but Wim, like I said, takes the captain's room, and you can see like in the backgrounds of the ship as the hyperspace blue, white lines are flying by. But they end up arriving at the spaceport Borgo, and it's a pirate spaceport. And this pirate spaceport's very interesting, but they have to, hail a ferry. So this little furry fucker, it has to bring them over to the pirate spaceport, and they pay him a little gold credit. And this is clearly much more valuable than this little thing's ever seen, because he scurries off. Neil's talking about the people he's seeing in the spaceport, and Fern goes, can't you plug his trunk or something? And he goes, ha, I don't talk through my trunk. And you're like, how does he talk? I think he's like an elephant, though. He's got a mouth, and then he's got the trunk. And the trunk's used for, I don't know, breathing, but also like drinking water, I think. Grabbing things. Not Neil's. Neil's nose is too short to grab things, but, big enough that he could drink some stuff out of it, I guess. He's got big old ears, though. Big old floppy ears. Like an elephant. But so the kids start walking around trying to find directions and information. And a woman finds the girls and starts to talk to Fern and KB, and she's like, listen, the woman trying to help KB and Fern is like, listen, this is a pirate spaceport. This isn't no place for fucking kids. And they're like, we're just looking, trying to get to Ad-Adin. And she's like, I don't know where that is. No one knows where that is. And then we find out Wim asking the guys at the bar, and they're trying to, scam them out of more money. And one pirate kind of has his back, but not really, because the pirate just wants these kids real Republic credits for themselves in mint condition. And we find out that this is probably because they're from Ad-Adin, which is this mythical treasure world. So that's why, mythical treasure world. They don't know how to get back to it. It's in a secret location. It's got a barrier protecting it that you're not supposed to be able to go through. So that's all things that are working against these kids. And they have these credits. They don't know where they're at. These credits are worth a ton of money everywhere else, right? And this was just this kid's school lunch money where he's going to school, and it's worth a lot of money in the galaxy. So pirates want it, so they're going to try and get after him. So these kids got to get out of here. But SM-33 shows up and kind of has their back. I want my captain. I'm not leaving without my captain. The girls are kind of like, all right, fine. We're leaving with my droid. And the boys, I guess. So yeah, it's so crazy that Ad-Adin, their place where they're from, is the lost planet of eternal treasure. And that's maybe why the ship was upside down on the planet, right? Nobody can get there, and those that do crash and die, right? So they finally get to the planet, they're crashing, and they end up landing upside down. Skeleton's on the ship. The droid doesn't remember the last location he was at, so he doesn't remember getting there. So I would love to know who owned this ship beforehand. And if that will be a big part of the story. But like I said, the robot SM steps in, defends his captain from the pirate, and the droid's a fighter, and he's kind of, you know, throwing the hands, but the werewolf subdues the droid and electrocutes him, and Urkel, right? Remember Urkel from back in the day, from the Family Matters TV show, I believe? Urkel has a cybernetic eye, and he's the werewolf's, like, lieutenant. And Fern is feisty, so gets them thrown in the brig for a day or two. And he's like, you gotta ask me questions, you can ask us right here, right now. And he's like, oh, go cool off in the brig a day or two. Then we find out in the brig that Jude Law is thrown in the brig, probably that Captain Silvo that was the pirate captain in the first episode, but now the head of the piracy is the werewolf guy, so I don't know. But the pirates were confused how they knew where the spaceport and stuff was, so that's clearly, I don't know, whoever this captain of the ship was that had SM, the robot, as his left mate, you know, I don't know what the deal is with that, but I'm really curious to find out who owns this ship. But there are some great things from the pirate spaceport, right? Like, just the look of the spaceport looks so awesome, and all the people that were around it. There's like little fluffy bird animal things, you know, just little creatures, little Star Wars creatures that make the show so much better, and they just fly by. They have absolutely nothing to do with the story, but just the setting of it, you know, just setting this, oh, this alien rock spaceport has little creatures flying through it. I love it, you know, like, it just sets the world and makes it such a rich lived-in environment, and it's so fun and so cool. But then right in the brig, the kids start talking, and this man comes out of the shadows, and we find out that this is Jude Law's character, and we don't necessarily get a name, but he goes, the distance between us and the key is an illusion, and he force pulls the key over into his hand, and Wim, of course, sees someone using the force and goes, you're a Jedi, and he goes, shh, can you keep a secret? And this whole time before that, he was covered by a hood, so he says, you can keep a secret, and then takes off the hood, as, you know, trying to win the kids over. The way that the force pull worked, it looked like almost like a practical thing, like they had a string that they painted out, and the key just, you know, slid across the string. But it also looked a little too clean for it to be, like, believable. Like, is this guy actually able to use the force, or is that just like a sleight of hand trick that he did on these kids? But I don't know, I guess we'll find out next episode. But they, you know, force pulls the key over, and now he's gonna break these kids out. So now our team is mystery Jude Law character out of the shadows that we don't really know, but I will think that he's Captain Silvo. But in the interviews, Jude Law kept saying that he is known as many different names, so it's almost going to be impossible to figure out what's his true identity. But I'm hoping we find out by the end of the series. This is our crew here. You got Fern, SM, 33, KB, mystery Jude Law character, Neil, and Wim. So you got the 4 kids, a droid, and the adult possible Jedi, possible pirate. I don't know, but images we haven't seen yet. There's shots like this where he's got the pistol on, and the jacket that kind of looks like Captain Silvo's jacket, but we see the kids in the background standing on the ramp of the ship. In this picture, we see the whole team, the crew, but we see an owl person over to the right above Fern and to the right of KB. But we haven't seen that owl person yet, and she kind of looks like she's wearing Jedi clothes. So is that owl person a Jedi herself? I don't know. I also am struggling to pinpoint when in the timeline this is taking place. But I will say KB is an early favorite for me, just because of how sweet and innocent her little face is when she doesn't have the goggles down. You could see she actually has eyeballs, and, you know, she just hides them behind the thing for other people. But she's a sweet little innocent girl, and she's a little tech expert, so I love her already. And I don't know if just from these 2 episodes, is this show gonna make me go buy the Lego set for this show, where you have Neil, you have Wim with a nice hair mold, you have KB with a nice hair mold, Fern, and Jude Law, and they all seem to be holding like little flashlights, and Jude Law's got the pistol. But, like, I'd be very curious to know if there's lightsabers in this show, if the kids are gonna become Jedi in the future. Like, what if Wim grows up to be a Jedi? What if Neil becomes a Jedi? Like, that would be so cool. I know if they kill Neil throughout this show, I will show up. to, Lucasfilm's head office, walk in the front door, and beat the shit out of Jon Watts, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and anyone that is responsible for killing Neil. You will not kill my boy Neil. He must be protected at all costs. Literally everyone else on the show can die, but at this current moment, Neil must be protected. But comment below, do you agree? What are your thoughts here on Skeleton Crew, the first 2 episodes? Will you be staying tuned to see the next episode next week and the remaining 6 weeks of episodes? I'm in, baby. This show looks like a lot of fun. I'm honestly going to go watch The Goonies tonight because this show really makes me feel like that type of vibe. Maybe even like a Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, where it's like a kid and Harrison Ford finding a treasure, that type of thing, going on an adventure. I love a good adventure film, so an adventure TV show with Star Wars, I'm in. This show seems like a lot of fun. I do like Jon Watts and what he did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe, so all this to me so far through 2 episodes, I'm in. If I had to give it a score, I'm probably about a 4 out of 5 so far through 2 episodes. I thought they were both really, really well done. I do like that they dropped 2 at once because 1 and 2 feel good together. Almost like an hour and a half special type of thing. Maybe an hour and 20-minute total to watch the 2. So a good little runtime for the 2 episodes. Really good stuff here. I'm impressed. So I can't wait to see episode 3. I don't know what the title of it will be, but I know that it will be coming out December 10th, and it will be directed by David Lowery, the same guy that directed episode 2. So maybe we get another short episode next week. If I had to guess, I would expect episode 2 to be the shortest out of all of them. But yeah, if they're going to be about 30 to 50 minute episodes, I'm totally cool with that, and the rest of these episodes are going to be awesome. I'm really excited for episode 4 with the Daniels, episode 6 on New Year's Eve with Bryce Dallas Howard as the director, and Jack Schreier on Christmas Eve. That is the director of Thunderbolts, so I'm very curious to see what he does as well. Lee Isaac Chung, episode 7, the Twisters director, and then episode 8 comes back. Jon Watts directed the first and last. So I want to say this was Jon Watts' idea, so he directed the first and last because he knew how he wanted it to start and he knew how he wanted it to end, but he needed help through the middle. And that's cool how they do this, Let some different directors take the helm of different episodes. Let Jon Watts be the showrunner in charge of it all, and, divvy up some creative brainwaves, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't all have to be just inside one guy's vision. It can be a whole team's vision. And if it all works out and comes together nicely, who cares, if it was one guy's idea or a team's idea. We're here for good shit, you know what I mean? But that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for coming on by and watching. Comment below your thoughts on the Skeleton Crew first 2 episodes, and thank you guys so much if you've made it this far in the video. You're the best. I love you. But please, if you would like to support the channel, like this video, subscribe if you're new, hit that bell so you don't miss future videos. Commenting below always goes far away. All of my other social medias, Bigg Cam, 2 G's in the Big, pretty much anywhere. Links for all of my other social medias are in the description below. Thank you guys so much for coming on by, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!